Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first official, I think, podcast for Star Stable. Today we're just going to be chatting about Star Stable, about some stuff that we'd like to see change, but we're going to be as constructive as possible, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, as I think a lot of people seem to think that people who detract from Star Stable are just negative. We're really not. We're really passionate about this game, and we would like to share that passion with you today. Joining me today are three wonderful people. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amelia Cloudwatcher.
Hello, I'm Eleanor Nightwalker.
Hi, I'm Mia the Gamer.
And I'm Rattle. You will know Eleanor Nightwalker from her videos that consist of theories and playthroughs of older Star Stable games. She's pretty passionate about stories. You will also know Mia the Gamer from her recent videos that she makes about Star Stable. She's quite critical on it, but yeah, you know, she loves the game and she's very, very good in her videos. Please go check her out. Finally, Amelia Cloudwatcher is someone that I have come to know on Facebook. She actually inspired me quite heavily to start my own YouTube channel.
You're so kind.
She just has a way to kind of needle straight to the problems of games. Before I do continue, though, I would personally like to thank Arts by Ragdoll or Live Opal Rock for making our avatars. They look absolutely stunning, and thank you. If you want to support her, her art is absolutely amazing. I have a link down below. We're going to be covering 4 categories today. I will be covering environments. Mia the Gamer will be covering story. Eleanor Nightwalker will be covering activities and gameplay. And finally, Amelia Cloudwatcher will be covering release schedules and horses. So we have a packed podcast today. However, I will be dropping the timestamps below so that you can just jump to your favorite person if you so choose. You guys have anything to add to that?
Nope.
No,
that's fine.
I'm going to be doing all the talking today, aren't I? For me, the most important part of any game is the environment. The reason for that is quite simple. It is the first thing that you get to do with. It is the first thing that you get to know. It is the first thing that will evoke any sort of emotion. Is what you see the first time that you are opening a game. And I love that. I love the fact that images and music and shades and shadows can evoke these interesting emotions. For example, I mean, if you're walking down a dark corridor in a horror game, you're going to feel tension. And if you're riding in the open valleys of Star Stable, you're going to feel open, wild, and free. All of this adds to a sense of emotion and feeling that is quite important to games as a whole. And that is something I think that Star Stable does well, and something I think we can all agree with. Star Stable is damn good at evoking emotions, and I love that. I love that when I go into their game, I feel emotions.
Yeah, I agree.
yes. Mm-hmm.
For interest's sake, I actually love a lot of the environments. So which of the environments of Star Stable do you guys think is like the best, and why do you love that?
I was not prepared for that question.
Don't worry about it. Just like the first environment that pops into your head. Which one do you love the most?
Dino Valley.
Oh wow, why?
I don't know, it's so mysterious and wintry and stuff. I like the wintry atmosphere.
I know, right? It's actually one of my favorites as well. I love Dino Valley. It's just, and then I love the Southooth Peninsula. I also like that one as well.
I also love Dino Valley a lot because it's very mysterious. And my second favorite would have to be like Epona, because I feel like a lot of care was put into it. It's just sad that it kind of gets neglected now.
It is, isn't it? It was such a cool area at one point. Amelia, do you have a favorite area?
I was going to say that I think maybe Mistfall is probably my favorite. Although I don't really travel there very much anymore. It's kind of dead now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think the environment is really cool. It's kind of creepy in a good way, with the sounds and stuff that you hear, going on in the background. And actually, like, my least favorite is your guys' favorite. I'm not a fan of Dino Valley.
I know.
I tend to avoid Dino Valley if at all possible. I mean, not that there's, if you like it, great, but it's just not my cup of tea.
I just think it's really sad that there's nothing to do there. But other than that, I also like Galloper's Keep.
Oh yeah, that's a cool one. That's all Halloweeny. I mean, but I think, yeah, I think most of the event sections are actually pretty amazing. They except for the Winter Village that kind of went a little south this year. The one thing that I want to say about environments, though, is, in my opinion at least, I don't know if you guys might share this opinion, but I think that environments is probably the most important part of your game. In the sense of the gameplay is the part that lets you interact with the game. The atmosphere is what you feel about the game. And that is like a combination of sound effects, of music, and all the other stuff that kind of combines into that. And that is the part that gets me a little upset about Star Stable just now, because they've removed some of the horse sound effects. I don't know, did you guys hear that? With the horse that when it slowed down, or when it got tired, it would make sound effects.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I noticed that our horses no longer make sounds, and recently somebody commented on my channel and said, I wish that Star Stable would add sounds to the horses, and I was like, we did have that, but they removed it.
I didn't even realize that they removed it.
Yeah, they did. It was this funniest thing. It's actually interesting you didn't notice that. It's when they were running, and they became slower. They would make that puffing sound, as they get tired. They would make that sound. And that's something that I actually felt, at least for myself, it kind of bind me a little bit to the horse. I'm noticing a horse getting tired. Now they feel like motorbikes.
Yeah, definitely. I knew that the sounds were there. I just they've stripped down the horses gradually, so that I didn't realize that they removed the sounds.
Do you think it had anything to do with them taking away the how you don't have to, keep pressing the button to keep the horse going forward or anything? Do you think that that's maybe why they decided to change it?
Maybe the two were connected. Someone said that their code is like super spaghetti. It's like just a mix of a bunch of stuff. So it could be that when they pluck on something, it's very difficult to follow the line to figure out where the other connection is, or how that, gets together. And then when they remove one thing, the other thing pops away, and they're like, well, we can't add it again, so we're just going to have to leave it at that. They can't really adjust the code all that much. And that, I think, mucks up with their updates as well. But we'll probably get to the updates a little later. So the other thing I want to discuss about the environments is something that, I don't know if you guys know about this. There's something in environments that is known as cognitive function, or cognitive gaps. Now, cognitive gap essentially means that when we look at something, we are filling up information. With older graphics, for example, because they couldn't add shades and shadows, we are essentially filling in those parts by ourselves, and that means it activates the imagination. The best example of this is Impressionism. Now, I'm going somewhere with this, bear with me. When we look at impressionistic pictures, we are instantly trying to fill up images that we're seeing. However, when something is too realistic, we can't really activate the imagination. We can marvel at its realism, but we can't really appreciate the imagination aspect of it. And that is the issue that I have with Silverglade. It is too realistic, and it leaves nothing for the imagination. And it's such a clutter fest. I don't know if you guys like Silverglade. I have no idea, but that place is such a mess to me in regards to how they laid it out. And then the other thing is, it doesn't really feel like an old village anymore.
No, I agree with you. I think it feels kind of, it feels a little too, busy now, and almost too, cluttered. I mean, I know everybody kind of stood on top of each other in, anyway, but, it's just, it doesn't have anything like the same feel that it had before.
I feel like I'm one of the few people who actually like the updated Silverglade, in the sense that I think it's a fresh and new look. However, I do think that it felt very cluttered, and it's hard to get around everywhere.
I'm not sure what it is about Silverglade, but to this day, even though it came out a long time ago when it got updated, I still just can't navigate it. Like Amelia said, it's very cluttered, and it's very tricky to get around. I don't know why.
It's basically just poor level design. They designed an environment without thinking about how it's guiding the player. And although I will say, though, one thing I will say for Silverglade, the houses are pretty. There's something pretty in it. It's just so busy. I struggle to pinpoint the prettiness.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much. I mean, I appreciate the effort of trying to give it a fresh coat of paint. I just think that it went a bit overboard, because, like you said, you can't focus on just one thing, because there's just so much going on around you.
But it is pretty, at least. We can say that, at least. The newer areas, what I can say about them is it's actually the same problem I have with Tabletop. Does anyone else find that area quite confusing, or is it just me being an idiot?
With Tabletop, I feel like it's just the talking horses that ruins it for me.
Really?
Yeah. It doesn't feel like Jorvik with all the talking horses. I feel like the Soul Rider horses are the only horses that are supposed to talk.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a good point.
that is.
I think that the Tailtop Village, when you said that, I totally forgot it was even a place. But when I did go there, I did think it was cool. But again, it's the same thing with the village. It's hard to navigate. You don't really know where you're going.
Exactly. It's when I'm at the warrior clan, I think is what they're called. When I'm at the warrior clan and I have to get down to the mist clan, or what, I can't even remember their names. I have to get down to them. I'm like, where's the road again? And I usually end up running in a circle, and eventually I get down or I fall down, and it's I don't know. It was just really oddly designed for me.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier just to fall down than to look for a road.
Yeah. Although I will say, it wasn't Jarlaheim, it wasn't Epona. That construction area around Epona, I think, suffers the same thing, but it's not as bad.
Oh, that would be called Old Hillcrest.
Oh yes, Old Hillcrest. Yes. That area with the construction site. It's not as bad, but it's also there sometimes. But I think I've written that so many times with the archaeological stuff, I've figured it out by now. So the other thing that I really want to quickly discuss about environments is music. I think we can all agree Star Stable's music is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I do agree, yes.
I think so too.
Yeah, no. I have like playlists of stuff like on my computer. I think that the music in Star Stable is some of the nicest, and it enhances the environments. You know, when I'm riding in Moorland and that theme song hits, it's like coming home. I don't know how to explain that. And when I'm riding in the Dino Valley and that music hits, it feels like I'm in a freaking Harry Potter game. I don't know. They just know how to utilize the music to enhance that atmosphere. The same with South Hooth Peninsula. I love South Hooth Peninsula's music.
Yeah, I agree. Although I will say, I'm not sure if I'm biased because I'm nostalgic and everything, but I do prefer the original soundtracks. I feel like they fit more the atmosphere of the game. Well, now it's more like magical, mythical kind of songs.
Yeah, I feel the same way because it's the nostalgia part, but also it just felt like it fit the game better.
I can actually see that. I think that one that they keep at the beginning is very mysterious. It has a far more mystery element to it than mythical, I think. Is that maybe what's going on?
Yeah, I think so.
The final thing that I think I just briefly want to touch on is the idea of realism. This is something, and then I also want to talk about the Winter Village, but I'll get to that at the end. But realism is something I think that people don't necessarily associate with games, but it's actually pretty important to games. It sounds odd, but when something is designed in the real world, we want to see an element of realism to keep ourselves immersed. I think we can all agree on that at least. But the one thing that I think Star Stable is moving away from is that element of realism that they try to incorporate. For example, the cold tolerance that they removed. That was a sense of realism they had in the game that was gutted from it, and now that realism is gone, and it takes away some of the immersion. Same thing with the fact that your horse can now keep running into the ether. It never gets tired, which once again takes away slightly of that immersion. And that kind of feels like they're dumbing down the game to an extent.
Yeah, I wonder if it's what they think maybe is like a quality of life enhancement. Although I can think of a lot of other quality of life changes I would, prefer them make over the ones that they did.
I feel like the horse slowing down was like the only sense of stamina that our horse actually had. And before, when you mentioned the spaghetti code thing, it gave me like flashbacks of how a lot of players are saying, well, I don't get surprised when a bug happens because there's files in the game that date back to 2005.
Yeesh. Yeah, you said that actually in your big video, I think. You mentioned that. I was actually surprised. I couldn't believe they have files that are that old.
It's a very old game.
But yeah, I don't know. Eleanor, did you mind the cold tolerance removal?
I didn't like it at all when they removed it. It definitely made it less realistic. And there are also several things from the original games that I wish that they kept. From the care system and the speed system and everything, and the stats, not to mention. So they definitely made them less realistic in that sense. I feel like every single horse in this game is the same. They just look pretty. That's the only difference.
For a lot of players, having a fjord horse or any other horse that could resist the cold was like a big deal to them. So now that we don't have the cold tolerance thing anymore, like, it kind of defeats the purpose of, like, buying a winter horse, really.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I used to buy a lot of cold-tolerant horses for that exact reason.
It was a perk that they added, and something that like I said, it immerses you a little bit, and it makes sense. Some horses can have cold tolerance, and then you get people online that tell you, oh, no, all horses have cold tolerance. But I'm going to bet you, I think an Arabian is not going to be as happy to be in the cold as you're going to find with a fjord, for example.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what they could have done instead was to add heat tolerance, for example. When they open Ashland, they could add heat-tolerant horses.
That would have been a brilliant idea. And then the Arabian could have been like the first one to have that heat tolerance thing, maybe. Or the Marwari.
Yeah.
And the old fjords, you had to gain reputation to get them, correct? So that actually even kind of gave you a reason to play. Almost kind of like a little like status symbol type thing.
Yeah.
It's been so long, but I'm pretty sure the fjords were locked behind a reputation.
Yeah, they were. It was actually pretty cool. I actually liked that feature. It wasn't that much of a grind, and it was a status symbol. I loved it. It wasn't only you were in the valley. You had a status symbol. You were like friends with the cultish. I think that was their name. We were friends with the cultish, and that was awesome. I loved it. They've removed a lot of soul from the game, I think, in that regard.
Yeah, I agree.
Final thing I think that everyone really wants to talk about is the Winter Village. For me personally, I think they went too far into realism and they gutted that thing of every single piece of soul it had. For me personally, the Winter Village is probably like it encapsulates, I think, a lot of what is currently the issue with the environments. It is big, it is sprawling, but it was so empty when it landed. It's the same problem we had with Wildwoods or with Tabletop, or a Tabletop Village. It was so... There was nothing to do in Tabletop when it landed, and it was the exact same thing with the Winter Village. There was nothing to do there, and they added it, little bit by little bit, stretching out those updates. But we'll get to the updates later. But the fact is, when you stepped into the Winter Village, it was so cold for me personally. I don't know if everyone agrees with that. Did you guys enjoy the Winter Village?
I was real confused.
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't really spend a lot of time. I honestly just logged in to get the gifts and basically logged out. But I did do one of the races, and I did like how they changed the effect of like the ice or whatever underneath the horse's feet. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I agree about everything else. It was pretty lackluster.
Yeah, I agree with the ice part. I really like the race where the ice appears in front of you. I think that was a really cool touch. But I was really confused when I first entered the Winter Village, and I was like, where's the tree? Where's the trade thing? And whatever. I had no idea where anything was anymore.
Recently, I looked at photos comparing the old Winter Village to the new Winter Village, and you could literally see like how gloomy the new one got, because it does look more realistic, but it just looks like, for some reason, it just looks sad now, kind of.
It looks like they got hit by a blizzard. I don't know. It just doesn't look... It doesn't look like an inviting place to go drink a cup of cocoa. I don't know. I don't want to go sit there. I'm going to freeze my butt off. There was something else I actually wanted to say about the Winter Village now. I know I can't remember. Oh, yes, the penguin race. Who finished the penguin race?
I did once after I heard all the comments about it, and I immediately understood what people were saying, because you can't even jump the jumps.
No, you can't. How many tries did you have to do before you got it? I have it on record. It was 9.
I did it on first try, but that's only because I knew it was gonna come.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't know. I just dove into that thing, and I had to do it 9 times because I had to figure out where I could jump, where couldn't I jump, and the penguins, they just screw you over so badly.
I really don't like that race. Like, I tried to do the race cause I like to train my horses a lot, and then every time I had to start that race, I was like about to give up, because even when I knew when a problem was happening, when a penguin would come by, I would still manage to crash, or the spacebar just would not work.
Yes. I wish I'd had my mic on at that point, because I was tapping the spacebar like a mad woman trying to get over jumps, and it just didn't register. It just wouldn't jump. Anyway, the final thing I want to talk about is just to kind of round it off. I want to just briefly use an example because I think this is kind of what is happening with Star Stable. One of the funniest things is a lot of people think that graphics equal great environments. But environments, like I said in the beginning, is something that evokes the emotional feeling of a game. It is supposed to make you feel something. And that is a combination of sound, of what you're seeing on screen. And all of that combines to build that atmosphere that evokes the emotion. Great. Well, the one thing I want to say is there is a game, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I don't know if any of you have ever played Mass Effect.
No.
No.
Damn you. Why? It's a great game. Go play it. That's fine. It's a space adventure role-playing game. It's really cool. But it came out like a long time ago. And then they'd made a Legendary Edition. I'm going to show an example of what I mean by that. And in the Legendary Edition, they have better detail and they have better, lighting and everything looks so good. But they sucked out the atmosphere. And there's this really cool scene where in the old one where you're talking to this one guy and the light is low and you're seeing these glowing eyes and he's telling you this horrifying story, right? And then they show to you how it looks in the Legendary Edition. And it's well lit and it's pretty. And I'm like, you kind of screwed up the atmosphere. But that's kind of what I'm saying is detail does not equal good atmosphere. It's how you use the graphics that's going to evoke the correct emotion. And that, I think, is what is happening with Star Stable's newer environments. They're focusing so much on the detail that they're forgetting to evoke the emotion. And I think if I personally have to tell them anything to keep their environments, that same emotional impact, I have to go back and I have to remember that it's not about how many leaves a tree has. It's not about how many flowers a little pot has. It's about if it's placed there, will it build on the atmosphere and the feeling that the game is trying to evoke. That's essentially all that I want to say about the environments. I love environments, and I think overall Star Stables is absolutely brilliant. I just think with the last couple that they're bringing out, it's kind of been a hit and a miss for me personally.
I mean, I agree. They're nice to look at, by all means, but they don't usually feel the same. Like I said, I like the new Silverglade, but it's not really the same. I just didn't have that same connection that a lot of people have. But it's the same as to my favorite area being Dino Valley, and also liking Galloper's Keep. Galloper's Keep has new graphics, and Dino Valley has old.
Yeah, and I feel like some of the changes recently that they've made to the environments, it almost doesn't really make you want to spend any time in that environment either. It's kind of like I'm just passing through to get to where I need to be. I'm not hanging out here. Like I'm going to keep on going.
I think it's because with the updated areas, a lot of people who are playing before they got updated, it just doesn't feel familiar because we expected a texture update, but instead Star Stable kind of just takes the area and then recreates it, so it's hard to get used to the new design of it.
The new Marley's farm was pretty much a golden example of how it should be, because it still felt familiar, but it felt new and fresh.
I agree.
Yeah, Marley's was absolutely perfect, but I think they did take feedback on that one, which I'm pretty happy about.
Well, I think in Marley's farm too, there really wasn't a whole lot there to begin with, so maybe there really wasn't a whole lot for them to mess up, because there wasn't, it didn't have a lot like the villages and stuff have.
But I'm gonna say though, stretching that thing out with 3 or 4 updates, that was a little odd.
Yes, that's a little ridiculous.
They could have done that in 1 or maybe 2 at most, but 3 was a little, it's pushing it. Anyway, that's it for me for environments. I think I've covered everything.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about the storyline because it's very influenced by the characters, and when the characters aren't really done right, I feel like it really causes the storyline to face consequences. So I wanted to do positives first. So first of all, I want to clarify that the reason why storyline is affected by the way characters are designed is because design is a key factor in how a character is viewed. But if the vibe is kind of like off, it kind of like throws off the entire story almost, because along with the new updated version of a character, they might change the personality. But like I said, I want to do positives first. So I'm going to give examples of some good updates for characters. So first off, I think Andy from Furgrove Sandpit is a really good example of an updated character because even though he got updated, he still has the same vibe, and also I'm pretty sure his personality stayed the same. And I think Maya also looks really good because she's detailed and has lots of personality, but she's also aesthetically pleasing to look at, and plus she's part of the storyline. And also with Linda, a lot of people don't really like her new update, but I think she does look pretty good for the most part because I feel like if you compare her to the old photo of what she looked like, she's pretty much the same. She just kind of looks like an actual texture update, but that's just my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I agree. She looks very similar to how she was.
No, I actually like her. I think that they didn't muck it up or anything. No, and that's a good update. I think that if they keep that up, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, so I was like thinking about that, and I was like, it seems like when it comes to the characters, the same thing with the area too, it kind of relies on like being familiar and also the vibe of the character, and when a character doesn't feel familiar or if the vibe doesn't really suit it, that becomes a problem, because if a loved character gets updated and the update doesn't meet those requirements, the character won't feel updated then. Instead, it'll feel replaced. So a lot of people now, they view new characters that got updated as imposters. So a lot of people who play the game, they'll refer to like Lisa as an imposter, and a lot of people feel the exact same way for like Steve's farm, because that looks totally different from how it used to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I can get where they're coming from. That, yeah, they're babies essentially. You know, it's things that they grew up with, it's things that they know. It's like having your mother throw away your favorite toy and replacing it with something that's more sparkly and better. But you're like, this isn't the thing I want to play with. This is something that you're expecting me to play with, and I don't have a choice in the matter. And that angers people, I think.
Yeah, totally. Because when it comes to like the characters and like the areas and all that, we already had like established lore previously from the other games, so I don't see why they couldn't have just like built off of that and then like just updated the characters' textures. But Star Stable can do it right. Like, for example, I think the Fripp update looks really good. I think Linda looks good, and so does Andy, and a few other characters like the updated James. They have the power to do good, but I feel like sometimes they just heavily miss the mark.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to say all along as well, that they can use the same personality but update the model, because they don't need to change for them to look that good. They don't need to become completely different characters.
Yeah, that's I actually share those sentiments. It's the same thing with the Dark Riders. It's not a, like I said this in my video, sorry, but it's that thing about changing the characters or changing their models is fine, but creating brand new characters, why not take those characters, respect the new characters you created, and do something interesting with them, instead of just using them to essentially kind of wear the skin of the old characters. It's kind of strange.
It's particularly interesting with the Dark Riders because they had a fourth Dark Rider that they hadn't revealed before, so they could do whatever with her.
That didn't turn out too well. I didn't like her all that much. I get what they were going for. You know, it kind of captures the newer demographic, or the demographic they're aiming for. But yeah, I don't know. It was really odd choice essentially.
Yeah, I feel like nobody can say that it's wrong because we've never seen her before. But from what I've seen, it's pretty split between who likes her and who doesn't. But they definitely could have done something different. I think people in general expected something a little bit different.
A little bit more intimidating is what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like because you guys mentioned the Dark Riders, like that just kind of like pulls me into like the negative aspects of like the storyline and the characters, because Lisa went from being like a punk rock outcast into being a country girl, and she's not really relatable. And I kind of have the same kind of complaint for Anne, because Anne looks good, but I feel like she was kind of stripped away from her like love of fashion, or like how she used to be really self-centered or mean, because Star Stable doesn't just change the graphics, but a lot of the time they also change the personality. Like a lot of people even now say that the characters might feel like they were taken down a notch and they lost a lot that was part of them. And a lot of the characters recently, when it comes to the Dark Riders, they got changed and look way different. Like a lot of people, they no longer like Sabine because she was turn from a 16-year-old girl into like a way older person who kind of looks like a motorcyclist or a Fortnite character. And I say motorcyclist because somebody went into the game files one time and they saw that I think there's a helmet, like a motorcycle helmet for Sabine. I don't know why she would have that.
I think that might replace the Dark Rider cloak, and if that is the case, oh lord help me.
Oh my god, if that was true, that'd be so weird.
She has a helmet because she has horsepower.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, I make no excuses for my bad jokes.
No, but for real, like, the characters, they get, like, torn apart, and it's, like, sad, because, like, no one really loves the Sabine character anymore, or Jessica, or, like, even Elise. Like, we all had this, like, great idea for, like, Elise. Like, she's the scariest Dark Rider, but then they update her, well, they add her to the game, and she just looks like a child, and also her name got changed multiple times. And I do think the characters look great. I do think they have potential. It's just the problem is that although the graphics look good, it doesn't mean that it's good for the character. Like, Lisa looks great, but Lisa doesn't look like Lisa. And again, it's like, why update the characters like this when instead they could have just made new characters? And it's sad because when you love the storyline a lot and then Star Stable goes and changes a storyline by recreating characters and then changing the personality, they also happen to affect the actual storyline, and then things don't add up, and then it's hard for players to play the game because if something does change, we can't go back and redo the story unless we create a new account.
Yeah, exactly that, actually. That thing that we can't go back and replay the story makes the newer updates to the story so difficult to follow or understand, because like stuff has been changed, like 10 days, in story time 10 days ago, and now it's affecting this storyline, and I don't know what the heck's going on, so I don't care anymore.
Yeah, and I've seen other people say too that they don't care about the story, that nobody cares about the story. But why is that? Why do people not care about the story? Is it because the story is bad, or is it because it's confusing, or why do people not care about the story?
I can comment on that because I am probably one of the few that does not follow the lore of this game at all. Like I know like the characters, but I don't really know any of their backstory. And I agree with what you guys are saying. Like I can see the change in the characters, and while the models and everything look good, it is pretty obvious that some of them do stray very far from like the original, from what they are supposed to be. For myself, the reason that I never got into the story was because when I first started playing the game, I think in 2013 is when I started, when I was reading the text, to me, it was like cringy. I can't think of a better word. Like to me, it wasn't written well. And maybe that's because, their target audience is 8 to 14-year-olds. So maybe because it was like written more for like a younger audience, and I'm not a younger audience. So when I was reading it, like I couldn't get into it because I didn't like the way that it was written. It was bad to me. Like I couldn't follow it. So I've just skipped it all these years. Like I don't pay any attention to it. I click through all of the quest text. I never read it.
I feel like that's the kind of feedback that the SSO team should take with them, because the story is one of their biggest selling points. So when people don't care to read the dialogue, or they think it's cringy, or they think it's confusing, then they should do something about that.
I feel like I'm a minority though, because I feel like most people that I know that I don't have any friends that play the game, but just, it just seems like most people really do enjoy the story and enjoy the lore. So I don't know that there really are that many people out there that are like me who just don't care. And it's like, just tell me what I need to do and what I need to gather. Like that's all I want to know.
But that's actually a story problem, because the thing is I've played cheesy or corny games before, and I could easily get through the dialogue, and I could kind of chuckle a little bit at the thing, but the stories were still engaging. That's the thing, is I don't think that the especially the newer stories. I mean, let's take Marley's story for example. It was an interesting idea, and Eleanor, I know they watched your video. I am not even doubting this. But the thing is they had an interesting premise. That's perfectly fine. But then they completely rushed it at the end. You fairly pointed out, Eleanor, they brought in Bonnie for no reason, or they didn't establish why she was there. And it's these types of oddities that aren't making sense that makes you disconnect from the story. Why are you going to listen to something if it doesn't make sense? You have to keep your audience engaged in a story, and the way that you do that is by telling good stories. It doesn't matter if it's a little cheesy, it can still be a good story.
I was definitely intrigued when I heard that they were gonna talk about that. And I was hoping we would get some answers, but what surprised me the most was that we ended up with more questions than we got answers. Because how does Bonnie know their father, and why did they think that he was dead if he's not? And is Harley their brother? We never got an answer to that either. And Marley still messed up his explanations. He had 3 different times of death for his father, alone. So I'm sitting here with more questions than I had initially.
I feel like a big reason why Star Stable can't really be consistent with the storyline, or why it's kind of like I guess it feels kind of cluttered. I wanted to say it's because it could be because of the law, because a few years ago, COPPA, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, went into place, and COPPA is a law that YouTubers have to follow. Star Stable has a YouTube channel, so this could have affected what they did. So if you make content for kids, basically, you have to say it's for children, or else you are violating that law, and plenty of people were terrified of getting sued when this started, because it is very difficult to tell what kids' content is and isn't. Recently, there's been more clarification. So for example, this video that we're making right now, this would appeal to anyone of any age, so this would not be kids' content. But the point of me bringing this up is because when COPPA was first released, they did not give any really much info on what kids content is or isn't, so everyone thought that games were kids content. And I think Star Stable could have gotten scared because of this, because now if you go to their channel, you can't comment on their videos, and their channel is also listed as a kids channel, which means that it is directed towards anyone younger than 13 years old. And if you go to the description of Star Stable's videos, any video pretty sure I could find, it always says YouTube Kids in the description. So I think that why they took away so much they put into the game, like for example, removing Lisa from being punk rock, or turning Elise into a kid, could have been to relate more to kids. And in a quest we had with Lisa, she basically used her powers to knock down Dark Riders. And today, that quest no longer contains that power because it might be considered violent. But in the past, old players, like the older players, we all felt more appreciated. And it seems like Star Stable maybe changed the shift in their demographic to younger players, because maybe they feel like that's who they're forced to cater to because of the law, and maybe confusions regarding it. That's just how I think it could be.
I've always thought for a really long time that the fact that, and this kind of strays a little bit from your story topic, but I feel like the fact that this is a game that is developed for kids, I really feel like that actually hinders the development of the game. Because I feel like, you were saying about this law, they have to be so much more restrictive because they have to be mindful of their audience. If this was a game that was, like rated teen or whatever, I don't know if it's teen that it would have to be in order for it not to have all of these restrictions. But if it had a different rating, then, maybe the chat filter wouldn't exist and all these other types of restrictions wouldn't exist. And it would just be maybe a little easier to move forward in development and add more things.
No, for sure. That's exactly how I feel.
I just don't know why they restricted themselves to children. It's odd because, like you fairly pointed out, Amelia and Mia, is the fact is it would have been better if they just moved it just one notch up, because then they would have so much more freedom. But for some reason they decided to shackle themselves to a children's story.
And especially because it's us, like adults, we're the ones that are supporting the game financially, not their 8 to 13 or 14-year-olds. It's us working adults. So, I don't know too many parents that are on a regular basis going to be forking out all the money that they would have to, spend for, star coins or double star coins. That's a lot of money. So, yeah, it's us adults that are supporting them, not their target audience.
Yeah, and I think Star Stable likes to believe that kids pay for their game, but like you just said, it's adults or it's older teens. And my demographic, like who watches me, like everyone who watches my channel is like usually an adult age, and like they have even told me, like, as an adult player of this game, they feel like the characters have been like dumbed down because they no longer feel in depth. They now feel more vague, and that's a huge issue because when the game doesn't know their demographic, you won't treat the players like how they should be treated. And this is why a lot of players now say to Star Stable, stop treating me like a kid, because Star Stable thinks we are kids, when in reality, a lot of us are 20 years old or even 50 years old.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing is that they're declawing all of their villains. Who's that character? The bobcat chick with the blonde hair.
Loretta.
Loretta, thank you. Wow, where's my brain? But she is she was nasty, but it was fine because she was the classic mean girl. She's the one that you love to hate, and she gets a redemption arc. And I can't get on the GEO head person. My head, I can't remember her name now. GED.
Mrs. Drake.
Mrs. Drake.
Mrs. Drake. Wow, where's my head? But anyway, Mrs. Drake has the same problem. They're going to give her, they have already given her a redemption arc. And all of these villains are getting declawed because that's more kid-friendly, but that seriously hurts the story, because without serious conflict, what story do we have? There's no story.
That's kind of what I'm thinking with the updated Anne as well. Because originally she was pretty nasty. She was a spoiled rich girl, and there's no going around that. But so I definitely think that they did right with toning that down, but they didn't have to remove her personality completely. Like, they could have made her still into fashion and beauty, and instead of insulting people, trying to help them with their fashion sense and hairstyle and everything.
She's really cold now. I don't know. I don't want to say she doesn't have a personality. It's just extremely subdued. And it could be because, the whole thing, she was in Pandoria, she was stuck there, maybe that affected her. I get that. But yeah, I don't think I know her as well as I do the others. She feels very subdued and very cold. I'm repeating myself, but that's how I get what I get from her.
I feel like she still feels like Anne, but she feels very different. Like, she feels like an alternative Anne. Because she now has, like, academic dreams. Like, she wants to become a vet. And I feel like when returning from Pandoria, she should have at least had some more grief about, for example, her appearance, the scar. I would have loved to seen some quests where she's trying to process that she's gonna live with this scar now.
I would have loved to see that, because like if you play the Star Trek Legacy games, Anne is very, very self-centered, and like she knows that she's pretty, so if she has a scar now, that would like really affect her confidence.
Yeah, and there are a lot of girls out there who actually do care about their appearance, and not necessarily in a negative way. They just are really into fashion and beauty, and I wish that they could recognize that there are a lot of a big portion of their audience who actually care about that stuff, and they would love to see themselves represented in Anne.
That would have been a lovely idea. I mean, yeah, like you said, a lot of girls have these body issues, and Anne, a person that they look up to, tell them, hey, it's fine, look how I look, and you can't look worse than me, in that horrible sense, but you know what I'm saying. And that's fine. We move on and we accept ourselves. That would have been a beautiful arc, actually.
Yeah, for sure. And like, because of these issues, like, I wanted to mention, like, I'm a marketing major, so I wanted to like take some of the techniques that I've learned in college and kind of like give that advice to Star Stable. So, for example, like, because this is my last segment, I just want to say, like, this I feel like could really help the game when it comes to storyline and content and all of that. So I think that from now on, like, Star Stable should incorporate horses into the story rather than just have them for sale. So each one you buy serves a purpose because it affects your storyline. So this way, instead of paying for horses, players can pay for content and then get horses as part of the story, and content can become the main focus of the game. I mean, they advertise a story all the time, so like, this way people could get horses but also a fun story because of that. And I also have to say that Star Stable should really just up their demographic focus to teenagers and young adults, because there is so much more opportunity in that. There's less restrictions, it could attract more players, and also I'd have to tell them, like, get a dedicated quest team, because if an employee isn't dedicated to the lore, how are they supposed to keep up? And I also just have to say, like, there's a new game coming out this year called Astride, and I was looking over that game, and, like, it has, like, everything that Star Stable is and more. So, like, I think Star Stable really has to watch out for that game, because that game is aimed at people who are older than kids, obviously. And it's like, that sounds like an upgraded Star Stable, and competition really fuels innovation. So, like, yeah, they really need to, like, be on guard now, I think.
Yeah, and adding to that, if they watched my video regarding Roundabout Summers, we don't know if they did, and we probably never will know if they did, but it almost seems like it, because it's so much of a coincidence. So, if they watched my video, that means they made that quest in less than 2 weeks. So they have proven in that case that they can do it if they watched my video and got inspired by that.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing that actually worried me a little bit. It means that it sounds bad, but they don't have a plan. They go from week to week to week, and I swear they make these decisions in the morning and they implement them in the evening. It doesn't feel like their ideas are pushed to fruition. And we can see that in Marley's, you know, the way the ending was completely rushed. You know, I said they should have split it out over 2 sections. 1 week, you prepare for the thing, and the next week you have all these problems. But they don't do that. They just take it, they rush it through production, and they slam it on. And then we have the situation that we had with the Appaloosas, where the servers went down. Now, I don't know if those two had something to do with each other, but when we consider the fact that their game is, you know, it sometimes destabilizes in front of you, I won't be surprised if they put too much on the game, it just starts to buckle a little bit. But yeah, no, they need to get their focus back on what's important, and the important thing is story and, you know, pushing that forward.
Yeah, I mean, if they used 2 weeks on that quest, imagine what they could do in 2 months. If they gave us one quest line in 2 months, every 2 months, then we would have a lot of content to go through in 1 year. And it would be good content.
You could definitely cut this out. I just wanted to ask if any of you guys heard me talk about the horse game Astride, because my Wi-Fi cut out, and I thought that, like, I came back and, like, everyone was talking about something different, and I got, like, really confused because my Wi-Fi does, like, cut out a lot, so I just wanted to be sure.
No, you did speak about Astride.
Yeah, and I actually I Googled it because I hadn't heard of it before, and it looks pretty cool. It actually reminds me a lot of Star Stable. Maybe not a lot, but it just, like, some of the horse design, and even, like, the one picture that they have of, like, you know, maybe a town or something. It actually reminds me a little bit of Star Stable, but better.
Well, for real, yeah. Like, I wouldn't doubt if, like, there was players who were playing Star Stable and then they were like, well, I like this game, but I could do better, and then they became, like, indie game developers and then just kind of learned what they took from Star Stable and then just made their own game, because a lot of people do that for inspiration anyway.
Yeah. Well, my first thought was based on some of the Glassdoor reviews about people not being happy if people actually left Star Stable and maybe, you know, got together and helped create this game.
Yeah,
because they're based out of Norway, I think.
That kind of sounds like a theory. Like, that would make sense, though.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I have actually been dreaming about making my own game ever since the Glassdoor reviews, but I don't have the skill to do that, sadly.
I'm glad that this is going to be a PC game, because I'm not at all interested in mobile games, like, whatsoever. So yeah, I was a little nervous that I was going to find out it was mobile, and it's going to be on Steam too, so it's going to reach a much bigger audience.
I have, like, no interest in app game either. Like, I have, like, no reason to play an app game. I'm a PC gamer. But that's why I said how, like, Star Stable should be on guard now, because, like, if Astride comes out and it is as good as it sounds, like, that's gonna be, like, a heavy competition to deal with.
Well, it's good. I think that's one of the problems with Star Stable, is that they don't have any competition right now. So, you know, they don't really have to make a whole lot of effort, because, like, what else is out there? But yeah, I hope that this game does well.
I actually had a little chat with one of the developers on the game of Astride, and they are 5 developers. 3 of them are like horse lovers. They they actually had the same issue with Star Stable that a lot of other people. So, well, not Star Stable specifically. Sorry, they just have a lot of issues with the horse gaming genre as a whole, and they decided to start this game. And they actually got funding, which is awesome. So the game is definitely starting to move forward. And I look very much forward to Astride. The one thing that I just want to say here, because I did have a chat with her, is people shouldn't put too much pressure on a design team that is 5 people. You know, we're not going to get Red Dead Redemption, but I am holding out hope that over time and with patience, the game will eventually evolve into something that we will all be able to enjoy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't expect miracles out of 5 people, but they seem very ambitious. So.
Yeah, no, they do. It's just a lot of people are already going, you know, you should do this from Red Dead Redemption, or you should do this. And it's like, no, just calm down. Poor people.
Like, everyone has, like, their own art style for games. And I also want to point out, like, there is other horse games. Like, we have Wild Shade now. Equestrian, the game, is coming out. But the problem is that, like, although they are horse games, it's not really competition almost, because Star Stable has storyline. A lot of games don't have that, but Astride will have storyline. So that's all I really had to say, though.
Yeah, I think Star Stable needs to start, you know, fixing the story. You know, like you said, Mia, there's a lot of issues that they need to. But I like your points actually about, you know, moving the demographic. I think that is maybe the main issue of this whole fiasco.
I definitely agree. I think that's a huge issue. There's a big restriction when you can only develop your game for children.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
You know, and with having, you know, kids aren't going to complain. Not the way that adults complain. You know, they're just going to log on and see a shiny pony, and, you know, they just want to run around and, you know, run into fences and stuff like that. You know, adults, you know, especially those of us who have played other MMOs, we get more involved in the game. But you know, it's not us that they're developing it for. I don't see parents spending that kind of money on a bunch of horse, you know, pixelated horses for their 8-year-old.
I just want to say one thing. I find it so sad that the equestrian gaming industry is so desperate for a good horse game that we will essentially swallow anything as long as we have a horse.
Well, you know, I think a lot of it also might have to do with the fact that horses are very difficult to animate well.
Yeah.
So I think that is probably why we don't see a whole lot of them, because I mean, right now, Red Dead Redemption also does a very good job, because I think they actually might have used like the mocap suits or the motion capture suits or whatever for the horses.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that Star Stable does that, but you know, those 2 games animate their horses pretty well.
Okay, Eleanor, you're going to be chatting to us about gameplay activities.
Yes, because when you have finished all the quests in the game, you need something to do. And this is one of the biggest complaints I've heard about the game, that people think it's boring and that there's nothing to do and no reason to log on. So I just want to start up a little bit positive, because we should first of all appreciate that there are things we can do in the game. We do have daily quests, we have chores, that sounds like work, doesn't it? But
yes, it does.
You can still buy horses and train them, you can compete in championships, you can go to the Fort Pinta Disco. There are things to do in the game, and there weren't things to do in the original games once you were finished with the quests. You were finished with the quests and then you were done in the original Star Stable games. So that's definitely a positive. And I want to ask, what do you guys like to do in the game when you're done questing?
I just like to ride around. One of my favorite areas is, like I said, Dino Valley and South Peninsula. And it's silly, but one of my top favorite things is taking away all my horse gear and just riding around as a wild horse with all the wild horses in South Peninsula. I love that.
I've done that before.
That is just so much fun.
Yeah, like, after I finished all my quests, I was kind of like, I didn't know really what to do, because, like, you only have things that really feel like a chore. So I kind of just got into fan fiction, and you make your own fun, really. That's what I do, at least.
Yeah, I think I'm going to sound really negative because I actually haven't even done some of the most recent story quests. Because for me, I just, again, I don't follow the story. So there's really not a whole lot of drive for me to log in and see what happened with it. But I used to want to get the quest done because, I wanted to level. But, I've realized that questing doesn't do anything for me. My character going up a level doesn't do anything for me. I don't gain anything. I don't achieve anything. After you've unlocked all the areas in the game, to me, doing quests for myself is pointless because I'm not achieving anything. So I actually haven't played the game regularly for any extended period of time for several months now because I don't enjoy training horses. I don't enjoy that repetitiveness. So if I'm done with all the quests, honestly, I just don't play.
Just want to add one thing, just to be a little bit more positive. I will say, in the training sections, I'm not a fan of training, but I will say I do enjoy the more unique races, like the butterfly race and the bunny race. That's something I think they can maybe add more of, because that makes racing a little bit more intriguing, makes it a little bit more fun.
Yeah, it's not the same. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, just to add on to Rattle's point, yeah, that because it's not the same every time with those, it's random. You're not going to go in the same direction, jump over the same obstacles all the time. So yeah, that might be a little more engaging than just the regular, running around in circles, jumping over stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually wrote down a point on that because I think a lot of people think that training is very repetitive, and that is a big problem in this game. But I think that they had a thing going on in 2019, 2020, when they released Starshine Ranch, for example. We had competitive races against NPCs, and the turning works a little bit differently. We got the herding the lost animals, we got soul riding, and we had a lot of stuff like that made training your horse a little bit more interesting. So I definitely think that they were improving on that part. But the problem is that they haven't continued giving us those kind of races. Every time they give us a race, it's just that regular, straightforward race. Just go through the checkpoint and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. I will say that when they added Starshine Ranch, when I do train, very rarely, but when I do train, Starshine is one of the places that I will go to train my horses, and I generally always will do the lost animals one. It is a little frustrating when you have to herd them if they're really far away, because it seems like sometimes it takes forever to get them back to the NPC. But yes, if I do train, I will train there because it's a little more easier to get through.
We also have stuff like orienteering and trail rides. And I don't know if the pumpkin hunt also gives us XP for the horse, or if it's just like I don't remember what it was, the shards, maybe?
Yeah, no. I think it does give XP for the horses as well, if I remember correctly. I think so.
Yeah, so I'm glad to see that they have given us a lot of different kind of races. But I think that they should be continuing giving us different kind of races to make it a little bit more interesting. Especially when that is pretty much the only activity left to do in the game. And
the other
similarly...
thing
Yeah, sorry?
Oh, sorry, no. One thing I just want to add on that is I think that the races are also so long with so little XP. I'm taking the one that they just added at the beginning of this month with that show jumper at Jarlheim. And I remember I did the race and I'm like, why isn't this thing ending? And when it ended, I'm like, I got 150 XP. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, really? This thing was so long. It was like 2 or 3 minutes. So I think that if they add the races, they're also too long at the same time. But yeah, that's just something else.
No, I agree.
Yeah. I was going to say that I feel similarly with the championships. Because championships is one of the things that I actually do in the game when I'm online. I forgot to mention that earlier. But that is one of the few things that I do when I'm online. That is championships. I'm trying to collect all the medals.
Can I just say that, I honestly have never done a championship ever at all. In all my time of playing Star Stable, I have never done a championship. Maybe I need to one of these days.
Well, it's
Just to see
certainly
what it's all
fun
about.
in the sense that you are competing against someone else, and you get that you can win, you can get a medal, and you have you have achieved something. But the problem I have with championships is that they're all the same. It's just a regular race, kind of. So that's what I wish that they could improve with the championships. That they had different kind of championships. Maybe they had some kind of show jumping competitions, some kind of trail rides, or like cross-country trails. Or maybe they could have one in Dino Valley specifically for cold-tolerant horses, if they had cold-tolerant horses still.
All of those are actually brilliant ideas. The one I'm thinking is the orienteering. You could actually have like teams, and then, there are 6 points, and then, each team has to get 3 of those points or something along those lines. And then you race to get them and you have to race to get back, something like that. That would have actually also been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I think they could definitely do a lot of fun things with the championships and the races to make them more intriguing and make it more fun. Especially when they're giving us this many horses, we need more things to do with the horses.
No, I agree.
I agree too.
Yeah, everything revolves around the horses. So, like you said, they have to add something that we want to do something with the horses we're buying. That would be nice.
Yeah, because as it stands, like I have 5 pages of horses that are just standing around in my stable. Most of them are not maxed, but like, why? Like, what is the purpose of buying every horse in the game and maxing it out? Like, what? You don't get anything for that. Like, there's no kind of achievement for having all of these maxed out horses standing around in your stable.
Another thing I was thinking about championships and races is that it has so little challenge. And now we're back to the thing with the horses being dumbed down, because they all work the same. But if they had different stats, it would be kind of like, for example, you need 1 horse for regular championships, you need 1 horse for cross-country races, you need 1 horse for jumping and stuff like that. Maybe you have draft horses for tasking, for questing and stuff. So that you have a different purpose for every horse. That would give a little bit more of strategy and challenge to the actual game.
That would actually be like amazing if they did stuff like that. It like you said, it would actually maybe give someone something to focus on, or something, that they get good at, getting task horses or something like that. But it's just so the same at this point, and that's the problem. Everything is exactly the same. I don't know if I said this in my video, but it comes down to everything is activities. There's no real gameplay, and that's the big issue. Gameplay is an engagement and a reward, or a failure. But activity, taking fishing and clicking until you get a fish, that's not really a game. That's just an activity. There is a failure, but there's no skill to it. It's just sitting there clicking at the right time to get a fish. And I think that's
the point of mine too.
Oh, sorry. Jumping you ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Were you going to say something, Amelia?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, one thing I was thinking about when you were talking about the races is that one thing I've always wondered is that why can't we do the daily races on all of our horses? Meaning, if I pull out my Arabian and I go through and do every single race on my Arabian, why can't I turn around and do all those same races on one of my other horses, like my thoroughbred? Why is it tied to just like one horse?
That's true.
I think it would be cool just to be able to take all of your horses. If you've got 10 horses and you want to, train all of those horses in one day, you should be able to do all of those races on all of your horses.
Since we're on the topic of horses, I just wish that, besides training, I wish it was, possible to, actually have some type of, personality or, uniqueness to the horse. Why can't we, rescue one? Or save it from a shelter? Or adopt it from a breeder? Or, just do something that's more, a story to it? Because I feel like, regardless of how our horse looks, it's still the same horse. It just looks different and maybe has some different stats.
I've always said that I've thought that it would be really cool, and this is kind of like what Spirit was, to have a random rare horse spawn somewhere in the world at random times, and you would have to find it and tame it. and it's only there for a certain amount of time, and then you have to wait for it to like reset after a few hours, and then kind of have to go on the hunt to find it again. I think that would be kind of cool.
Horse Riding Tales has a very similar type of thing, but it's just really funny. You toss orbs at the horse and then you tame it. But that game has a slew of problems. But it does have that kind of mechanism, so that would actually be very feasible. And seeing as they already have that code in game with Spirit, that's definitely, I think, something that they can incorporate into the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's just another horse, but it's something to get people playing, because it would be kind of like this. I'm sure people would go for it as kind of like a status kind of symbol. Look at me, I found this rare and special horse, and it would just make more people want to play to get it.
The thing is, I'm sorry, it's just the funniest thing is that was the idea I thought they were going to have with the Jorvik wild horses. Because they made this huge to-do about, will you build a bond with it? Will you, how will you approach it? And it was such a freaking build-up to this horse that was just another horse that you go and buy.
Just bought, yeah.
It was such a disappointment. I mean, there was so much potential with that horse. There was so much potential with it. And they just decided to go buy it. 950 star coins. Bye!
They've done this before. They've done this with the pets as well, with showing screenshots of us interacting with the pets, but we can't actually interact with the pets. And same with those fish horses that I can't remember what's called. They can't swim. The campus?
The campus?
Yeah.
Campus and Telina, there we go.
Yeah. Like, in the photo for it on the articles, when they first came out, I'm pretty sure, like, I have it saved somewhere, but, like, the horses are, like, in the water. Like, they're submerged in the water, as if they can swim, and then you go and buy one, and you can't do that. It's very misleading.
I feel like that's one of the big problems with, like, gameplay in general, that they set these high expectations of what we can do in the game, and then we can barely do half of it.
They act like the game is better than it actually is.
I know that gaming companies do this to an extent. I mean, I think one of the biggest examples is like if you look at 1990s box cover art of Doom. I'm sorry, but the guy's pointing down. You can't point down in Doom, the original Doom games. I know this is funny, but it comes down to it. They promote the game in an enticing, oh, look at this game. But the problem with this is they use in-game models to promote their game, which means that a person who comes from the outside is going to think, oh, that is an in-game picture that's been taken, so that's what I can do in-game. And then it isn't, and you can actually say that is borderline false advertising.
Well, most of the time, companies will add like a disclaimer, something to the effect of, it not being actual, like in-game content, or something to that effect. But I don't think Star Stable does that.
Anyway, now maybe we should move on to the next point. I feel like we should bring up some more positive things as well. And I want to say that I feel like recycling and crafting, they hold a great potential for the future. They could do a lot of stuff with those systems that will make them really fun to do in day-to-day life. Maybe there are more things that we can craft and we can combine them in better ways. They can do a lot of stuff with that, and I think that is the beginning of something.
Yeah, I actually was going to mention Farah's workshop and the Big Bonnie thing during my section. But yeah, I agree, especially with the workshop. I feel like it was a really cool concept that has a lot of potential, but I think that it definitely could be expanded upon. I think it would be cool if maybe we could dye our clothes and tack, or maybe if we could even like add stats to clothes and tack that don't have any, like you don't wear them because they don't have any stats, so maybe add a way to do that. I think they should also change, like I don't like if you have to say make 10 pieces of cloth, how you have to make one at a time. How you can't just say, type in, I want to make 10, hit, create or whatever it is. And then it just makes all of them instead of you having to do each one individual. It's so tedious.
Yeah, I agree.
I really like Sarah's workshop because when you have to make something and then like take it to one of the characters in game, it feels a lot like a small business. And I've always liked the idea of like having a job in Star Stable because all we do is really train horses. So it would make sense if we had a way to make an income. And like a small business would also like could be really encouraging for younger players, or any player really, who would love to make their own thing and sell it. Like, it's very inspirational to be like, why don't you become a small business owner? It could be really useful.
Yeah, it's the other activity I think that they certainly could have expanded upon, and one that I very much enjoyed, was the ranch rescue, where you had to take care of the foal, and you had to clean it, and you had to feed it, and you had to, do all that stuff with it. I actually thought that was going to become a daily in of itself, or something that's going to happen weekly, or an event that's going to take place. And I think that in itself, there's potential. I love Pharaoh's Workshop. I think it's something. Like you said, it's something that's innovative, that's new, that's fresh, that like you said, it's like a small business, and it is kind of fun, running around, dropping all the stuff off. And the other thing it teaches you is a little bit about the people. You learn to put a name to the face, and that's something I also appreciate. It teaches you about the world in a very subtle way, essentially.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree. I also thought that the rescue ranch would become a permanent thing. Yeah. And I think a lot of horse lovers, because this game is for horse lovers, equestrians, will definitely love that kind of quests. So it's sad that we didn't get to do more with that.
We can actually combine that with Amelia's idea that you actually find a wild horse, or Mia's idea that you find a wild horse, or your two ideas, and you take care of it, and then it grows, and then you have a horse. That actually would have been pretty cool. I don't know. There's a lot of potential in the game that can really grow if they just sit down and they push forward with that.
Yeah, and start from a money making perspective. I know that's not my section, but they could you could choose to adopt the horse afterwards, and then you already have an established bond with them. So another positive is the events in general, because I see a lot of people who usually don't go that much online. They go online when there are events, because then there are a lot of fun activities to do. And I remember particularly during Halloween and stuff, I am online a lot more than I usually am, because there's just so much to do. I do championships every hour because I'm online anyway, and then I have the Shard Tornadoes, I have all the races and the activities in Galloper's Keep. And there are just so many things to do. And now we also have that Galloper's Gambit thing going on, and yeah, there are a lot of things. So, with only a few exceptions, of course, like the Winter Village this year, which flopped, events are usually pretty fun and keep people online.
The Halloween event is one I never miss. I actually look so badly forward to it. I love the Halloween event. It's just a pity that they're getting a little bit more buggy, but if they can sort that out, the events are, like you said, they're great, they're fun, they're interesting, and if they can just build on the events, I think that would actually be great for them.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else have anything to add?
No, I don't really know what to really add to that, because the holiday events are great. It's just that I think it's sad that they keep leaving. I was always looking forward to the Easter quests, and then I was looking forward to the potato race even. I look forward to these different events and they never come back. So, but when they are around though, they are really great because they keep you online, but it's also a really fun thing to celebrate in game.
I hope they'll bring the slippery races to Dino Valley once it's updated.
Oh, that would be so cool. No pun intended. But that would be a lot of fun, actually. But that's actually something that Mia said. I'm not happy with them for removing events. That I don't know why they did that, because they didn't upgrade the other events, or they didn't upgrade the Winter Village, but they didn't add a bunch of stuff to the events that they kept. And they gutted so many of the events, and that was a bizarre thing for me to do. But I am hoping that they're keeping the slots open for maybe newer events or different events. That would actually be fine. Just the events are fun.
Yeah, I also have one very big negative with gameplay in general, and that is that we barely have any social activities in an online game, and that is not very good. Because what's the point of being online if we can't even interact with one another in any other way than to chat. We have those group races, but you don't get any XP for that, and you don't get any rewards at all. So there's no point of doing it at all. And the clubs, I'm not in a club, so I can't speak for everyone, but there's not a lot of things in the club as well. You have to come up with everything yourself, like the dressage and everything. The dressage clubs, they make up that stuff themselves. There's nothing really made in the game for you to do. And I think that's a big problem.
I agree. It almost feels like they just want it to be more of a sandbox environment and just let the players come up with stuff to do themselves. But like you were saying, from the social aspect, it's really hard to even communicate with people with the chat filter, because, you know, innocent words are potentially going to get filtered out. So unless you're using a program like Discord, it's even kind of hard to communicate with people.
I think that having a game be sandbox is really cool because it could help the players be really creative and do their own thing. But the problem with Star Stable is that even though it's kind of really sandbox, we don't have the mechanics to have our own fun in the game unless you want to role play, which a lot of people don't care about. But also, when it comes to role play, it's like you can't even chat because the chat's kind of broken.
So you're kind of limited to just doing dressage or role play. There really isn't a whole lot of options.
I really don't mind a sandbox game. I just don't want to have to pay $75 to be in a sandbox game. You know, if
right.
See, that's the thing, is if it was a $20 game and it was an open sandbox, I think a lot of these videos would not have been made. But the fact that you'd have to dump, I'm sorry, but that's part of it, unfortunately. It is a monetary investment at the end of the day. And it's actually a higher price than a lot of, you know, current games on the market. I mean, I can go buy like really great games for way less. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, but then why go play those games? It's not the point. But the thing is, because you have to dump all that money, it's difficult to justify that level of game with that money. That's the difficulty. You have to kind of wrap your brain around the fact that, hey, look, you're dropping all this money, but you're not really getting a game that's gonna you know, inspire you to keep playing. So you essentially just kind of maybe wasted it a little bit. And I think that's where a core frustration of a lot of players are coming from.
Yeah, Star Stable, in my opinion, doesn't have any replayability. And for the amount of money that you're spending, I think that it should. If you have to create a whole new account and start over with a new character. You'd have to buy Star Rider again. Like, who in the world? Like, I would never pay for Star Rider twice just to have the same experience that I had the first time. So yeah, it's like once you're done, you're just kind of done. There's no reason to really create a second account and do it all over again.
But you won't have the same experience, Amelia. They've changed everything.
That's true. They did change it. That's correct. The storyline and everything is different. Yeah.
New experience. New experience.
I feel like the bottom line for this whole section is that in a game like this, we need social activities, we need challenges, and we need variety. That's like the three things that we need. And we have no social activities. I feel like we should, for example, with the group races, we should at least get something from it. We need a reason to do those, other than to just... Also, why do we have groups at all? And why do we have riding clubs at all when we can't actually do anything? When they updated the club system, I would expect more club activities and more things to do with the club. And one thing I've been dreaming about is like having, you know, Harry Potter, there's like the house cup. If we had something like that for the clubs in the game, where you would, if you did well in races and you did well in championships, you would earn points for your club, and they would be like, at the end of the month or something, rewards would be given to the best clubs.
That'd be a cool idea.
I wish there was an easier way to get into a club. Like, I ran clubs a few years ago, and it was like anytime I wanted to get people to join it, I had to advertise it in the chat, but not everyone uses the chat or has it open all the time. So I wish there was like a way where you could like have your club on like a leaderboard or something, so you could like select which one you want to join, and people could just join that way or submit like why they want to join or something, because I feel like that would make it like much more fun to like get people involved.
Just imagine if Star Stable had an actual like forum that they're an official, there is a fan-made Star Stable forum that people do use to try to, get club members and stuff, but it's really not that active anymore. But yeah, it could be as simple as Star Stable creating their own official forum. But I don't think, I feel like we'd run into the same problem that we run into in game with the fact that this is, again, a kid's game. It would be like really heavily moderated. And I don't know, how much communication we'd really be able to do.
Do you think the reason that they don't have a lot of competition between clubs is due to the minor aspect? You don't really want to have heavy competition between kids, essentially. The champs are fine, you're just racing against individuals. But when it gets to clubs, I'm sorry to say this, but one of the problems sometimes in social, and that's one of the reasons I think why they moderate the social chat so much, is bullies. It's unfortunately a problem and a reality for a lot of kids is that they do get bullied. And we can actually imagine this. I think we can all imagine this. If you have 3 or 4 clubs, might they actually, start to kind of become a little too competitive? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with that. But I think the idea has definitely merit. I mean, I can imagine, if you're part of this one club, you have to be in this specific home stable. And if you're part of that home stable, that makes you part of this section. And, like the House Cup, you have these sections that compete against these, in these larger competitions. I think that would be so amazing. It would just breed so much, it could actually, the opposite, it could breed some good competitive spirit, not necessarily always negative. And I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's definitely important to avoid bullying and stuff, but
yeah,
it's not, in an online game, it's very important to have challenge. And if everyone's on the same level, all the challenge is gone. So in a sense, you do still need to have some sort of comparison between different people and different players in the game.
Yeah, I just think a lot of people are a little allergic to it, which is sad because, like you said, online is instantly going to be a competitive style game. I mean, we have the championships, which are by definition there is competition already in Star Stable. And I think they can expand on that and make it something really great if they just put in the time, and they can make something really wonderful of it.
Yeah, that's where the whole social aspects come in. Because if you made, for example, races where you have to be divided into random groups or something, then you suddenly have to cooperate with people who you might not normally cooperate with. And everyone will just be forced to get along because they might have to cooperate with them.
Or maybe they don't want to deal with people who would, I'm sure, inevitably join those groups and just troll. You know what I mean? Like maybe purposely run into fences to make the group fail, or something like that. Maybe they just don't want to deal with any of the potential negative aspect, despite all the positives that it could have.
Yeah, there's definitely challenges with all of that stuff.
It's almost like, why bother? That's why I kind of feel like they're thinking, like, why bother? It's just going to be too much of an issue.
Yeah, that's sad, because if they just bothered, then the game would, I think, actually, well, I don't want to be too negative, but if they put in that time and that effort and that that drive, the game would actually be a lot better by this point.
I agree.
Yeah,
I just think it's kind of odd with the bullying thing, or like, oh well, kids play the game, because I am not in a club right now, but the last club I was in, everyone in that club was between the ages of 17 to 23, so it's still hard for me to realize, like, oh, well, it's aimed towards kids because no one I know is a kid in the game, or in real life at least,
On my server, there's a lot of kids.
I don't talk to anyone, so I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say me neither. I always keep chat minimized. I don't even have it open, like I don't look at it, so I can't say. I'm on WildStar though, so I know it's a more populated server. But yeah, I don't pay attention to the chat.
I'm forced to chat sometimes because I get recognized.
Oh no!
Glories of being famous.
That's the price you pay for having your actual Star Stable name as your YouTuber name. It's good though. It's fun talking to people.
Like it is fun talking to people. The problem I have though is that my username is not my Star Stable username. Like, my YouTube name is totally different, and a lot of the times I'll get comments where it's like, well, what's your SSO username? What server are you on? And I'm like, oh, well, that's in the description, or it's in the video, so I'm always answering that question.
I tried to hide my name in my videos, and then I kind of screwed that up like 7 times. So I think my name is out there somewhere, but yeah, I don't interact much.
Oh, I must have missed it because I don't think I've seen it.
Oh no, there were so many people like in my comments, "Hey, Rattle, you missed your name, and I'm like, oh god, why am I so stupid?
Oh, well, now I need to go back and rewatch so I can stalk you.
Oh, great.
Yeah, if I just want to blend in, I also have alternates, so it's no problem. I enjoy talking to people anyway.
I have 1 account, so I am screwed.
Same. I have 1 account, so I can't have any alts. I don't want to pay for an alt either, but I also don't mind talking to people because I love being social in the game because, like, sometimes my server has no one on there, so I have to just, like, deal with, like, anything on the server, really, and, like, make friends if I can, because I'd rather not be alone on the server, because there's championships and, like, a lot of things to do sometimes, like, if there's an event. Otherwise, there's nothing to do, so the server has no people on it.
But now I'm kind of thinking maybe I shouldn't have said what server I'm on, because if there is an Amelia Cloudwatcher on WildStar, she might get some harassment, because that's not that's not my name in game either. So I'm sorry if that's the case.
We apologize profusely to you, Amelia Cloudwatcher, wherever you might be.
Right.
I'm sorry, we actually got a little sidetracked there.
Yeah, I think it's gonna have to end the section soon anyway, but before ending it, I want to come with some improvement suggestions. So, there are definitely a lot of good ideas out there, good suggestions, and they are probably getting tons of good suggestions every single day, but I think some really simple ones that they could add in with little to no effort are things that are already in the game, such as fishing, which you, Rattle, mentioned earlier. Because we have fishing in the game. They made a whole mechanic for fishing, and we could use that in daily quests, and we could keep the fish, and we could sell it for Jorvik shillings, or we could eat it at the picnic or something. And it's very little, but at least it's something, and it's something that will require no effort, barely. And they could also include things from previous games, mechanics such as the carrying and the speed and stuff from the original Star Stable games. We could have dance-offs at the Jorvik, what's it called? The Fort Pinta Festival or something. The Fort Pinta Disco, that's what I mean. We could have dance-offs and we could have karaoke nights, because we already have those mechanics from Star Academy.
Yeah, those are all brilliant ideas. And like you said, there are so many of the basic stuff is already built into the game. They can just expand on it.
I agree.
Yeah, I also miss the need system. We had somewhat of a need system back in the days, where if you ride your horse for a longer amount of time, the needs will go down. And I remember that was a thing in SSO for a while too, but they have removed it. I have no idea when, but it's gone for a long time ago.
I think they removed that because there was a glitch in the game about that, because I think what was happening is that you would feed your horse and then it wouldn't really affect the speed of the horse. I remember for a long time the care system was completely broken.
Yeah, that's probably why. But that's also a thing that I kind of miss from the original games and from back in the SSO days, because it made the horse feel more alive, because he would actually get tired as you rode it.
Yeah, and that could actually be a reason why you get a lot of horses, so that you can switch out horses. This one is tired, and then you have to take it back to the stable, give it a groom, give it a bath, let it rest for a couple of hours, and then you ride a different horse. And like you said, that, we spoke about this earlier in the environment section, where we talk about the effect of realism on a game. And that's where it comes in. Realism in a game does have merit. And the more realism you have, obviously too much realism makes a game boring. But, the more realism you have, the more investment you have, the more immersed you become. And that makes a game fun.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think we had talked a little bit about quality of life improvements. I think there are some really easy quality of life improvements that they could make. Like, why when I log out do my settings reset? Why do I have to change them every time change them back every time I log in? Why does your quest progress, why does that reset when you log out? how come we don't have an option to do like windowed mode instead of full screen? So whenever I tab over to my second monitor, the game doesn't automatically minimize. Things like that, and like not being able to like double click to equip items instead of having to drag your items over to like equip, or like if you have the pickaxe, why do I have to drag the pickaxe out of my inventory and on top of the rocks? Why can't my player just know that it's in my inventory and start hacking away at the rock?
Yeah, the other one I'm going to add on top of that, why is it that when I clean a horse and I leave it in the stable, it is dirty the next day? That drives me crazy.
Oh yeah, that I think the whole caring system is just that needs a complete rework too. Like I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't have the time to log in every day and care for their horse. So I don't care that my horse gets sad and that I would have to feed it, but I don't think that it should take days for my horse to go green. I think that I should just be able to log in, feed, water it, brush it, whatever, and then be on my way and it'd be green. It shouldn't take days. Because what if I don't intend to play for days in a row? I'm certainly not paying for stable care.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I'll just run around on a sad horse if that's the case.
I think there are a lot of sad horses in Star Stable.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, but it's the caring system, like you said, that thing. Oh my, it's one of my biggest pet peeves with this game. It drives me crazy. But the one thing that you actually said this earlier, how cool would it be if we had feed that boosted the horses faster? So, you get like a barley bag, and then when you feed the horse, it goes up a smiley face. It costs a little bit, but, instead of going to the vet, you can use Jorvik shillings to kind of boost the horse maybe halfway up. So it only takes you 2 days to get it up to full health. That, like you said, quality of life, little changes that just makes the game a little easier and more fun to play.
Yeah, in the original Star Stable games, there were also horse food that you could pick up that gave the horse bonus stats for a limited amount of time, so like 1 minute or 2 or something.
And to go along with that, they could even do something like bonus XP. Like, maybe at certain like events or time of the year, you could buy these little tokens that grant you like extra XP for a certain amount of time to help you get the horse trained a little bit faster.
Oh yeah, no, that's brilliant. I love it.
Kind of like how when you log out in WoW, if you log out in WoW in an inn, you gain rested XP. So yeah, something like that.
I think Alicia Online has the same thing. They have a training bell. I think it's a training bell that you can pick up, and then the horse picks up XP faster. Or if you take care of the horse a lot, then it also boosts up the XP. That's actually something that would make a lot of sense in this game. Because you train like 90% of the time.
Yeah, and for me, like the Jorvik shilling cap, I think either needs to be removed or it needs to be increased, because I have so many stacks of hay, because that's all I end up buying. Like there isn't any gear or tack that I want to buy, so I end up just buying hay to lower to get rid of some of the Jorvik shillings. So they could maybe make it available to sell, and you could buy it with Jorvik shillings, so you have something to spend them on.
I have a tip for you, Amelia. There is a horseshoe that you could buy. The Druid horseshoe. It has great stats, and it costs like 9,900 Jorvik shillings.
I forgot all about that, because I do just have the one, and I just take it off the horse every time and put it on a different horse. That's very good idea.
Yeah, every single time I fill up my my bank, my Jorvik shillings, I end up buying that horseshoe because I need it for all my horses anyway.
That's a really good idea. I'll have to do that.
I am so doing that too. Thanks, Eleanor.
No problem.
Another thing too, I had noticed too that I think that they should change is like if you have a max reputation with a faction, I'll call it a group, why does it always show you when you do that group's race? Why does it always show you as still getting reputation when you're already maxed out? So like, why can't we maybe get a little bit of extra, some more shillings, or maybe earn a little bit of extra XP because we've maxed out the reputation, or God forbid, maybe a little bit of star coins because we've maxed out the reputation.
I actually love that idea, because what they could do, if they want to be a little, interesting. I think you start at acquaintance, and then it's friendly, and it goes up. But every time you go up a reputation, for every quest daily you do, then you get a little bit more Jorvik shillings. So in the beginning you get like 10 Jorvik shillings, but by the time you are famous, or I can't remember all the tiers now, but by the time
admired, I think is
admired,
the last one.
Then you get 100 Jorvik shillings for every single daily you finish. So that will also motivate people to finish up those reputation quests to get more, Jorvik shillings.
There are like so many good ideas out there that they could use, and I've seen so many people are making videos on this on YouTube as well about like 10 star stable ideas and stuff, and I'm sure that SSO has seen them too.
Yeah, because some of the things, like, yes, I know some of the things like on the forums I posted, a couple of years ago of, a big list of ideas, and one of them was what they introduced with the store, where you can, you have the global store. I mean, you can go on and, like, if you select a saddle pad and a saddle, like, it stays on your horse so you can see it. So, because it used to be really hard to put outfits together, because you could just, if you hovered over it, then it went away. So you couldn't, like, match your outfits. So I like that they added that, because that was a really good quality of life feature. That's
true. We should probably not go on forever with this section. We should probably move on. I've said everything I have to say anyway, so.
Ideas just keep popping into my head that I forgot about.
But that's the thing, we all daydream about, I hope Star Stable adds this. And I think, we're probably going to get a ton of comments of people saying, we want Star Stable to add this, or I want Star Stable to add this. But that's the thing, we're so passionate about the game. We sit and daydream about things we want to see in the game. And I think Star Stable just simply, I think maybe the problem isn't that they don't want to. I think due to the bad Spaghetti Go, due to all the issues in the engine, they simply can't add the ideal things that they want to add. And that's kind of sad.
What I feel very disappointed about is that, for example, when they say that we're updating the club system, and then it doesn't actually add anything to the game. And the same with the chat system. It didn't really improve that much. And they did the same with the carrying system. They didn't actually update the carrying system. They just changed how it looked. And the racing as well. We haven't received the racing update that we was promised for 2021.
Yeah, some people think it's the equitation, but I'm like, no, that's essentially just a race with some fencing in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not anything different.
No, they need to add a quick start, and they need to add a sprint to racing. That's, I think, the bare minimum they need to add. That would already make the races a little bit more interesting.
I would love to see a quick start in the game, because at the Starshine Ranch, a lot of the times, or like every single time really, if you start a race, your opponent always is faster than you because they have a quick start. And you could try to catch up, but it's no fair that they have a quick start but we can't and we're the player.
Yeah,
that's actually a good example.
But I feel like that's a big problem, that they keep kind of advertising the things that they're going to update, and then when the update comes, it's not what they advertised, kind of. People were expecting something very different from what they got.
They need to be careful about saying, we're going to update the characters in 2021. I think that they should word it differently, because, game development doesn't always go the way that you want it to go. So most gaming companies, they don't usually make promises that they don't know for sure that they can't keep. So, they might tease it, but they're not going to guarantee that it's going to be out at a specific time. That can be dangerous.
I feel like when Star Stable has to update or do anything, I feel like they hype us up so much that's why we get disappointed, because they make the game seem better than it actually is. Like, going back to the example with the Jorvik Wilds, you're gonna bond with your horse, but we don't get that. We just have to buy it somewhere.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. And I feel like in the blog post this year from New Year's, they were a lot more careful about promising anything at all. And honestly, I would much prefer that over what they did last year, where we barely got half of what they actually promised, because they realized they couldn't finish it. And I wish they could come forward and say that, hey, we realize we can't finish this in time, so here's 100 star coins, for example.
Nope, they're in the mindset of deny everything, admit nothing.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
So I do much prefer like this approach that they have now, where they just don't promise anything, but they talk about what they are working on, which I do appreciate.
I think that's the safer way to go.
I think like 2 days ago, I could be wrong on the date, but a new article came out, which I made a video about today. I didn't upload it yet though, but it's about the character, and they dropped some more teasers in that, as well as the new upgraded, they're going to update the water, I think. And I think they did admit somewhere how, like, we realize it's a little bit difficult or whatever, but, like, it's just no fair to hype your players up so much and you can't even really commit.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the character update, because they are so outdated. And, you know, players have been asking for them to be updated for so long. And so, yeah, people got really excited just to get let down.
On a positive note, that one looks really good, though. The player character update looks really promising.
Yeah, you just took the words out of my mouth. I wanted to say credit is due. That looks good. You know, and that's the thing, you know, say what you will about the Dark Riders. You know, they, you know, you said it earlier, Mia, the Dark Riders isn't what we wanted, but they look good, you know.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I've been saying all along, too. People have been saying how all I do is complain, but really, I really like how they look. They just don't look like themselves.
Yeah, if they'd just been new characters, I think. Okay, well, no, we're moving off topic again, but they would have been so cool if they'd been new characters.
We're gonna get through this podcast.
Well, at least we know that it can be done, so it definitely gives us hope for our own characters.
Yeah, and I think that like you said, Eleanor, they learn, and that's the thing that I appreciate. You know, it sounds weird, but the fact that they took your idea from your video, and I do believe they did, and they added it to Star Stable, or to their game, and the fact that they changed, you know, from promising, you know, the moon to promising, you know, okay, maybe a tree, you know, they learn from their mistakes and they're moving forward, and that is always good to see in a company. And the fact that they added your story, it shows to me that they, despite everything that they do care about the community in their own way.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, especially when I played through the quest and I saw that they added in this little poll with syntax, where they asked, why are you in Jorvik? And we got to choose why we're in Jorvik. And I feel like that's a poll that they put in for players to state their opinions to the developers. And that, I'm really positive about that. And I'm also really positive about them adding the quest in general. And even if they did watch my video and take the idea from there, it shows that they are listening and they want to do something about all the backlash that they've been receiving. And that is a good sign. Because what they could have been doing was to just turn a blind eye and say, you know, that doesn't matter. We'll just pull through and keep doing as we always do.
Exactly.
Right, and that's what they were doing. I mean, for the longest time on their social media, if anybody gave any kind of negative feedback, it was deleted. Like they did not let any negative feedback posts stay on their social media. And now, granted, yes, if somebody's going crazy, that it shouldn't. They should go ahead and remove it. But even if it was like constructive, they still deleted it. But now you can actually make constructive criticism, and they not only don't delete it, but they'll acknowledge you by responding to it. So that's definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I've been saying it in a video as well, that they have been saying how they want player feedback. So in order to take player feedback, we need to give them feedback. So I really think that people should speak up when they think that things should be this way or this way. In a constructive way, of course, so that they can actually bring that forward and do something with it.
Yeah, like that reminds me of how, like, when I made my documentary about issues within the game and also with the company, there was people telling me, like, why would you even make this? Because Star Stable don't even watch YouTube videos. But, like, they do, because if Star Stable didn't watch YouTube videos, they wouldn't have been able to find ambassadors, and they also wouldn't be able to get proper feedback.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. They definitely watch videos. And that just says to me, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, maybe that's malicious, but I don't think so. I really think that there are people in that company that really, really do care about the people on this side. I mean, when I made my customer service video, I picked up on a couple of people who said to me, this person didn't help me, but this person did. And that's kind of what I think is going on. There are people in that company that really care about the community. And there are some of them that don't. But it's those people that care that will, if they keep pushing, they're going to keep pushing the game forward. And that's really all we want to see.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Sorry, Eleanor, do you want to round off your section?
I thought I already did.
Oh, okay, great. Wow, we
I have nothing more to say, so let's move on.
Okay, great. Amelia, you have release schedules.
Yeah, in horses, like I feel like a lot of the stuff we've already talked about that I was going to talk about has kind of already been talked about. But yeah, I think one of the biggest issues with the game right now is the balance between horses being released and us getting actual content. That's been a problem for many years, because really the only type of regular content we get is horses. But on the positive note, I do think that the horses have greatly improved over the years. The models, their animation, their coats are definitely much better than what they used to be. But we're just getting too many. So like if you look back at the beginning, like in 2013, 2014, we got about 30 to 40 horses a year. And that includes like all the different coat variations or like any magic horses that would have come out. And last year in 2021, we had 79 horses released. So that's like practically double what we we're getting in the beginning. And like I wouldn't necessarily mind so many horses being released. It's just if it weren't for the fact that horses are basically being released to the exclusion of all else. And I hear people say all the time where, you don't have to buy them. And that's true. But unless you buy star coins regularly, I feel like you would never be able to keep up with all the horses being released. And so it's like players have this, this FOMO. so they give in to spending the money because they want to be able to keep up with all the horses being released. And I think too, some of the issues that I've seen is like them doing recycled animations, like for the Nab Stroopers and the Andalusians basically had the same animation. I think that they should, I just don't think they should do that. I think it should, every horse should try to strive to make it different from the other ones. And I feel like they too sometimes kind of rush to get them out, like that they're not really done, and maybe they put them on their list to fix later. Like the English thoroughbreds, I think they got a lot of feedback regarding their, like when the trailer released, they got a lot of feedback regarding their gaits and their lack of detail and their coats. But I believe they fixed them all before they actually got released, or they fixed them after they came out. I can't quite remember for sure. But then, we have the curly horse. I have no idea what they were thinking when they made the curly horse. I think that horse is just kind of a hot mess. But then they turned around and made a magic horse out of it. So I don't really know what they were thinking about that. And then the Frisians, everybody was so excited about the Frisians. And I think what was unique about that is that they did the grayscale. They showed us a grayscale of, what they were working on to ask for feedback, which was great. But I don't think that they really took any of that feedback into consideration, considering what we got, what the end result was. I mean, just in my opinion, I think the animations are really bad, and the main to me is just like ramen noodles, and so I feel like with that horse, it was rushed out for Christmas, but yeah, I just and when you go back and you look at all the like quote big updates we've gotten, we got Mistfall in 2017. I think that was like December of 2017, and then we didn't get anything else really like quote big until March of 2020 when we got the Druid training and the soul riding. And I think it was it was it was a different way to train your horse, so it was different than what we had before. I personally didn't really like that you could fail. I mean, I liked the challenge part of it, but I didn't like the fact that you could fail because, like, depending on where you got put in the world and what your mission was, some of those were like really difficult to complete, and like it sort of made the grind even longer if you failed your mission. And I think too that they could have used we got a free horse, so that's great. I just think that they could have maybe given us a unique model instead of giving us a reskin of a Norse Swedish, which is a horse that nobody really rides. I don't really see anybody riding it anyway. I don't know about you guys.
No, it's old news. Sorry, and that's the problem. The horses get outdated so quickly by the newer horses that it's almost a waste to buy a horse at this point, because in 3 months it's old news.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like cell phones. You buy one year, and the next year a brand new one's out. But yeah, you're right. And then so the soul riding was in March of 2020, and then in June of 2020 we got Farrah's Workshop, which we've already talked about. It being a really cool concept, but maybe just some few tweaks that they could make it to make it a little bit better. And then we got Wildwoods in 2020. So it was about 3 years between us getting new areas. And I think Wildwoods, it looks really nice. I thought the thing with the different tribes was kind of cool, but again, I almost feel like it was a missed opportunity because it's really just more of the same. It's more races and more rep quests. So I think there was the potential for there to be something different. And then last year, the only thing different I think we got last year was the Big Bonnie's recycle horse thing. We got that in April, and I don't think we really got anything like different or big last year at all. Maybe it was because we were supposed to get characters.
I definitely feel like we got more in 2020 than we did in 2021, which is a surprise because 2020 was the year when everything went down.
Right, exactly. But then you would see people saying, oh, give them a break because, COVID and everything. And it's like, no, because all these issues were happening way before COVID started. They just, they just started working from home. Yeah, so...
I'm sorry, Sweden wasn't even hit with the regulations. They could still work from the office. They actually chose to work from home, which I thought to myself, if it's crippling you this badly, get back to the office.
Another thing is that many other game companies have been booming since the pandemic because people have been more home and more playing more games.
Yeah, I don't think the gaming industry was hurt at all by COVID. If anything, they're doing better.
You mentioned before how the Frisian horse seemed to be like rushed out, and I definitely agree with that because like maybe this is just how I view it, but like growing up, like for example, the Lipizzaner horse, right? Its nose shape is referred to as like a Roman nose, and Shire horses also have a Roman nose. And when being around stables and all that, people always said a Frisian horse, they look really pretty because they have a Roman nose. And when Star Stable made the Frisian horse, they didn't do that. That's why it seems kind of rushed, because their face doesn't look like a Frisian horse face, and their bodies, like, I'd say that's kind of okay, but the animations don't even really suit their build. So even if their body is fine, their face is not fine, and the animations are kind of messed up. The horse doesn't even touch the ground, too, and I just feel like it could have been, like, way better.
Yeah, especially because that horse, I think, obviously is a very popular horse. So you would have thought that they would have taken maybe a little bit more care as far as that model goes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even play this game for horses, but even I can tell that the Frisians do not look good, and they really should have taken feedback on that one because it did not turn out well.
And their animations, like, they make really goofy faces, even though, like, a dressage horse doesn't usually do that. And also, I think, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you go to the Frisian horse, it doesn't say Frisian horse, it says Jorvik Frisian. So it's like, they get away with doing bad things with horses because they say, well, it's our version of it, even though no one asked for that.
I remember when they changed the release schedule for horses so that all the coats would come out in one batch instead of two. I was thinking to myself, well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Because then they would only release them every other month, I thought. But no, they didn't. I thought we would get quests instead of horses once a month or every other month. But instead they just released twice as many horses. So that was a major disappointment from my side, because that means we're getting twice as many.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about it like that.
I think it's also a really big disappointment when they say that they update horses, but they actually don't. Like, I made a video recently about the paint horse and how one of my favorite coats of the paint horse is the chestnut Tabiano and also the black and white Overo, I believe. And it's not like the typical Overo, though. It's like the rare pattern. We had that in the Gen 2, but they didn't transfer those colors to the Gen 3, so it's not an actual update then if I don't have my old horse updated to the new model, if that makes any sense, because they don't look the same, you know?
No, yeah, I agree. Because some of those old coats are really pretty. So yeah, it would be nice if they were carried over to the updated models. And I also think, as far as updating horses, I would like them to see, I would like to see them update the horses in game first, the ones we already have, instead of creating new ones.
No, I agree. And there's actually like two things. But the one thing is, when they update horses, give us the option to switch out an old model for a new model. It's not that difficult. And I think that should be a basic thing, just to make it. But I don't think they'll do that because they want to get in the star coins. They want you to pay for the star coins.
Right. Yeah, and then I think, too, they would have to do, like what Mia was saying, in that they would have to make, they would actually have to update the new horses, like for real, transfer over the old coats to the new ones, because there might not be, there might not be one that would be considered comparable.
Oh, yeah, that's also true. The other thing is, you said earlier that the Andalusian and the Napstrapper had the same animation. It actually stretches way beyond that. The Fjord and the North Swedish horse has the same animation. The Starter horse and the Trakehner has the same animation. The Gotland pony has the same rear as the Marwari. And
I think the Finn horse shares with somebody too.
Yeah, I haven't played the Finn horse. I don't have a Finn horse. I should actually get that one and check it. I can't remember now. But what's the new one? The American Paint has the same animation as the Arabian, and it shares also animations from the American Quarter Horse. Now, the thing is, I wouldn't mind if the horses had the same animation. My problem is that if they took the time, for example, to release these horses quarterly, number one, it would be a quarterly event, so people would get like super hyped when these horses released. And secondly, they would have the time to make unique animations for each horse, which means every horse would be something special that we can all look forward to. And it's fine then if the horses are more expensive. I wouldn't mind that, because then it's a quarterly event and I know that what I'm buying is something special. I just don't know why they don't do that.
I feel like it's like with the areas. Like back in the day when they used to update the areas once a year. Or they used to give us new areas once a year. And everyone were so hyped for that time of year when we would get new areas, because we would get a whole new area to explore. And imagine that just with horses, that if they released horses quarterly, like you said, people would get so much more hyped up to check out these new horses, what kind of traits they have, what kind of stats they have, what kind of coats they have, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's not really fun anymore to get a new horse. Like it's just not, because it's just the same. I mean, it's just different looking pixels.
Again, they just look pretty.
It's not exciting. Yeah. And like I said, I'm definitely giving the developers credit, because the horses, for the most part look great. But I need something to do with them, and they're just, it's not exciting to buy a new horse anymore.
Yeah, I'm kind of impressed with some of the horses, or I'm kind of impressed that they have managed to make some good horses, because while others seem pretty rushed, some of them are actually pretty good, like the Percheron and the Arabian are really good horses, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I think the Percheron is probably my favorite, big sort of draft horse.
Big chunky boy.
Yes.
Your was pretty good when it came out too, but now it's kind of overused.
The thing is, we spoke earlier about the balance between real. I'm bringing this up a lot. I'm sorry, but the balance between realism and fun. The thing that I think sometimes is making the horses too realistic in a fantasy game. It kind of, for me, sometimes makes them a little boring. For me, but the Percheron I like because there's something about the animation that makes it seem not a perfect style horse, but something unique to its own. That's why I think so many people love the Jorviks, because they're completely unique. There's something that stand out among the other horses because they don't look like realistic horses. You understand what I'm saying? They look like a horse that's unique to the world of Star Stable, and that's, I think, why a lot of people like them.
And even though they might not be perfect and like some of their animations like might be a little off, it's not so bad that it distracts, and it's not so bad that it doesn't make you want to buy it and not ride it, or like not buy multiple of them.
What I thought was pretty interesting with the Jorvik Waltz was how they look. They look different, like Rattle said. I mean, there's that one main style that looks like a lion.
Yeah,
I thought
I love that main style. Yeah, but that's cool. You know, it's something, you know, I love that about that. You know, I love the fact that they brought something so unique and interesting to the table. And I wish they would do more of that, because that makes it interesting.
Especially for our starter horses. Like, I feel like our starter horses need so much love. They've just been, I don't know. I feel like they've just been kind of forgotten about. Like, I never ride mine. Like, it's just not a very exciting horse.
There's that thing with the dragon horses. They would be very cool. I would be all for having a dragon horse, and it is such a cool concept, but it wasn't executed well.
This is probably like a
not even
unpopular opinion of mine, but like I feel like the Finn horse could have been a really good starter model. I don't know why, but like my starter model was Chestnut, and the Finn horse that I have is also Chestnut, and if I like put them next to each other, it's like I could definitely see the first gen starter horse turning into the third gen Finn horse.
The Finn horses are cute. There's something a little wonky about some of their animations, but like overall, I think they're pretty cute.
Is like the horses that Star Stable makes, a lot of them turn out like really good. They're hit or miss really, but I just feel like Star Stable could have a better balance of content and horses if they just didn't update weekly. Like if they just update it monthly or quarterly, it'd be better.
Yes. That was definitely one of my topics, is that I don't think the weekly updates just have to stop. I feel like they sometimes are just really scraping the bottom of the barrel with these updates, like just trying to come up with something to push out. But it's not only that. I feel like every update we get every week, something breaks. Like it's not maybe necessarily so game breaking that you can't play, but yeah, I feel like every week when we get an update, something else in the game gets broken. 2
weeks ago, you couldn't play. The servers broke, so it's getting bad.
Oh, that's right. They did go down.
The second I did the new quest with Marley's. I know we all did that recently, the Marley's quest. But I did that, and ever since then, it's like the grass in the riding hall for the jumps is now black. And also, when I go to Epona, the sky turned black. And there's also no water at Pier 13. So that was also really strange. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that when Mistfall came out in late 2017, I know there was an article in early 2018, I think, about adding more to the game. And I think they did mention how we like to add things in parts so we don't crash the servers. So maybe they don't do that because they're terrified of like breaking their code completely.
That would be interesting that would be so interesting, because it means that because that would balance out with the fact that their updates are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, because the game just can't handle the amount of information they're dumping on it in one go. I know that the Appaloosas and the halters, the rope halters, were supposed to be two separate updates. It was supposed to be week 1 and week 2. And then a lot of people kind of, flipped the tables, and they kind of chucked a couple of stones at them and said, hey, look, don't spread it out so thin. And then Star Stable said, okay, we'll add both. And then the servers went, it all just kind of crashed in on each other.
That is honestly scary.
If their updates are getting smaller and smaller, maybe they should give us 2 updates a week then, if that is the problem. If the game becomes more stable, the more updates they have, if they give us smaller updates, then maybe they should do it twice a week instead of once.
See, I wonder though about the fact with them doing weekly updates, if that just puts kind of like unneeded pressure on their developers to always just to know that every single week they have to be pushing something out. Like I agree with Mia that I think that, you know, maybe once a month or once every 2 or 3 months, release like one big update that has, you know, lots of stuff for us to do that would keep us busy until the next one comes out. Because I know they don't have a publisher like most gaming studios do. So, you know, they don't have a publisher saying you need to release this content by this day. So they're not really like crunching and they can kind of work at their own pace. But still, knowing that you have a weekly update, I wonder about the pressure that gets put on them.
Yeah, I think that's what's causing the horses to seem like half finished. And I feel like they need to identify what the problem is with their updates, or like is it because the servers can't handle so and so much, or is it to keep people busy? Because people will get so much more excited if we get things once a month. Because the updates feel so small right now if we just get one race or maybe just some tack or something. But if we got all of that in one update once a month, then it would feel much bigger.
Yeah, I really agree with Amelia Cloudwatcher on the updating system, because like the pressure would be like really immense, because how are you supposed to focus on the long term if you're so focused on the short term? Because every single week is something new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that probably also helps to contribute to, you know, the tech debt that they've got going on. And then again, if they're updating every week, the game gets broken, then that's just more, you know, that's more resources that have to be put towards fixing the things that are getting broken every week. And I feel like they're just going to constantly get behind with fixing problems because they're always updating it.
The worst thing is some people are reporting that horse models that are in-game are starting to kind of get broken. I don't think, like, for example, someone showed to me that the Connemara pony, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, its front legs aren't working as well anymore. The Jorvik Wild's tail isn't aligning anymore. There's something wrong with the Frisian, I can't remember, it's clipping somewhere. So now we have client-side problems, you know, with the game, essentially older models beginning to kind of destabilize to an extent. So that's kind of worrying as well. And they can't fix that. I don't think they can. I mean, will they? I mean, just look at what happened to the Trackner. Do you all remember that bit of a fiasco?
Wow. I was going to say, that was a fiasco.
Yeah, and like you mentioned the old models destabilizing, and they're not going to probably go back and fix the old models because they're more focused on the newer models, which I totally understand that. But it's sad because, like, we don't have a lot of the Gen 2 horses updated into Gen 3 form. And I love the Lipizzaner horse a lot, and I have, like, nearly all of them in my stable, but I can't use them because they're so bugged. And on top of that, for the past, like, year or two now, ever since they started adding Gen 3 horses, the Lipizzaner's, I think, right eye will close and then not open. And it's strange because it's like, they could blink, but, like, it don't blink properly.
Wow.
I'm just glad the old Fjord is okay, because I'm never gonna sell that.
Oh, I'm so sad I never got one.
I didn't either. I meant to log in like the day before they went away, and I totally forgot to do it. And yeah, same here. It just slipped my mind, and I'm still angry at myself for that because those things were adorable.
Yeah, they are. I think they're better than the Gen 3. And I also wonder why didn't they just put it at the horse market? That's why the horse market is there.
That's an interesting
true.
Possibly, like, because we mentioned before how their code is all really messed up. Well, we had to build up reputation in order to get the Fjord horse. So is it possible that the Fjord horse is intertwined with the code of reputation, so they had to remove that completely to even get anything to work? I don't know. It just sounds really tricky.
I think too it could devalue it, because for the people that did take the time to get the rep, and then for them to just turn around and put it in the horse market, then it's kind of like, well, why did I spend all this time grinding on this rep if you're just going to release it to everybody?
That feels a lot like how, I could be wrong, maybe they reversed this, but I think if you're a new player now, you could jump already. Like, you don't have to do the Steve's quest we had to do to learn how to jump in the game. They already have it, but I could be wrong.
I believe you're correct.
It's again sacrificing realism for quality of life and just taking away so much of the immersion. It's so sad. But yeah, I think the update issue is that, like, I think the main thing that we can all agree is that I think so in any case, is that the main problem with the update is that the update problem is they're putting too much pressure on themselves to update weekly. If they extend that to a month, if they extend that to bi-weekly, a lot of the problems would actually be cleared up in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, nobody is saying that Star Stable should stop making horses entirely. Like,
No.
that's not at all what we're saying. Like, what we're saying is that if the way that I look at it is that if you're going to be constantly asking me to spend money on your game, then just give me something that's worth spending my money on. Like, give me a reason to play. So yeah, they have to find some kind of way to just better balance all these horses that are coming out with giving us like substantial content that we can do something different.
I mean, that's exactly it. You know, it's just it's actually quite sad when you think about it, because there's so much, like we said earlier, there's so much potential in this game. It's not even funny. There's so much they could do. There's so much, roads they can take, and it's either the game or it's perhaps deliberate. But the unfortunate thing is that Glassdoor did give us an idea, unfortunately, of what's going on. And like we said earlier, it's twofold. It's the tech debt, and then the management that wants to push horses for revenue and not really push anything else for fun in the game. And between those two elements, it kind of makes it difficult to move the game in a direction that's going to evolve it from what it is now. And the one thing that drives me crazy about Star Stable, it is stagnating. It is staying on the same level, and it is not moving forward. And that will eventually, unfortunately, hurt the game and possibly even kill it in time. But they still have a chance to fix it. And that's the thing. They just have to do it.
Well, I think that part of the problem is that the fact that they're still making money. People are still, despite the state of the game, and it's fine if you're completely happy with the way the game is now. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. Like, that's fine that you have that opinion. But there are players that don't share that opinion, and it doesn't make us wrong for feeling that way. But as long as people continue to spend money on the game, and Star Stable sees that despite the fact that they're not giving us any actual content, people are still, opening their wallets, there is no incentive for them to make any changes, because it's already been proven that if they don't, they still make money.
See, Rattle just mentioned how the game is pretty much like stagnant, and it really is, because I mentioned this in my documentary. Like, the game came out in like 2011, and it's now like 10 years old now, a little bit older than 10, I think, at this point. And it's just crazy how the game doesn't really evolve. Like, it evolves, but kind of like very, very, very slow, because even the map isn't even halfway done. And I don't think they realize how much potential they have. Like, they could be the best horse game, not because they're the only horse game, but because they have like the most in it, and it's the best high quality.
Yeah, I really wish they realized what they had, because they seem to be taking a completely different direction now and having completely different priorities than they did originally. And it's such a shame, because what they had originally was really, really good. And it's a shame they don't realize that.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But one thing that we can at least say is, like we said earlier, in some ways, and I'm hoping that they do this, that they are listening. They are checking out the community stuff. They are. In some ways, they're trying, and like I said, the Glassdoor said that it's the management, but like I said earlier, there are people who care, and I'm hoping that the people who care's voices get stronger in the company, and I hope that their voices, are the ones that get listened to, and that they manage to take this game and they kind of shove it in that direction it needs to go. Because one thing I will say is, remember that article with Stacey Place from the main quest? Stacey Place did say that they know about the tech debt, it's a challenge, and they do want to fix it, and they want to move forward on that. And I'm going to hold out hope, a little bit of hope, that they do that.
Well, I mean, it would be in their best interest to do that. I mean, I'm sure, they obviously they're a business. They want their game to be successful. So hopefully, they'll do what they need to do. to keep it going.
Yeah, like, I still have hope, too. Like, I've pretty much, like, given up on the storyline ever since the Dark Riders came out, but, like, every single time I, like, kind of find, like, something in the game that's maybe new, like Mystic Valley, for example, because I made a video about that today. I'm gonna upload it soon, but it's, like, it's little things like this where I'm like, oh, I'm getting excited for the game, so I hope it turns out good. So I do have hope, it's just that I hope that if it does turn out into the game, I hope it is what is expected, you know? Because I don't want to be let down like I usually am when it comes to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been online. I've only been online a couple of times since like the past 2 months. Because I've just given up on the whole storyline and everything. But then other times, like 50% of the time, I read stuff that's coming out and I read about the things they want to do and I'm like, okay, this sounds good. I hope they're doing this. And I get really hopeful for the future of the game. And then it's like I'm very split on this. Sometimes I'm very disappointed by the things that come out, and other times I'm very hopeful for what is coming.
Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely don't play on a regular basis anymore, but I still keep tabs on what's going on because I know the potential that this game has, and I too am hopeful that they're going to make the changes that they need to make to make this game better.
I definitely want it to get better. I want to get back into it again. There's a reason why I started in the first place, and I'm really hoping that that comes back to me. And I'm honestly really jealous of all the people who still enjoy this game, because I really wish I could do that the same way I used to.
I completely agree.
Oh, yeah, amen to that. It's one of the funniest things. A lot of people seem to think that we want to take away the enjoyment that people have of the game. It's not that. We just have frustrations. But man, do I wish I could go back to that time when I was in love with this game, because those were some fun times.
I feel the same way.
Oh yeah, like I was so excited to play. Like I was spending my star coins on resting overnight so I could progress the story. Like you want me to wait till the next day? Heck no. Like I want to see what's going to happen after this. Like, so yeah, I haven't had that kind of excitement in a long time for this game.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you because I feel the same way. Like, I wish I could just go back to when I started the game and I was able to, like, get really happy for the game. Like, I remember when I first got Star Rider, I woke up that day, I was so happy. I was like, yes, I could finally do the storyline and all these fun things because I hadn't had Star Rider before. And it's like, I wish I could go back to that. And Star Stable can bring that type of magic back if they just listen to us.
I agree. I remember whatever quest it was where you had to build the bridge. Oh man,
yeah.
I was so excited to finally finish building that bridge and being able to cross it and go into the new area. Like, that was so awesome.
That was amazing. I remember that too. My favorite was with Idris when you got to meet him. Remember when he was like that old guy? I've liked him since the beginning. He was so cool.
I thought it was so funny when the new Idris came out. People were like swooning over him. They were so happy. And, like, a while back ago...
Yes.
Yeah, totally. And, like, a while back ago, I was thinking, like, I was almost tempted to, like, get a second account, like, get an alt account, just so I could re-experience what I used to do on the game. But you can't now these days because either the stuff you want to experience was removed, or it was changed, or you're going to do it again, but it's not going to have the same effect that it had years ago.
It's sad, though, you know... But the thing is, I do want to say one thing, is for all those people out there who still love the game and who get excited about it and, you know, who tell us, you know, we should just be quiet about it, that's fine. I want them to kind of love the game for as long as they can. Because those memories and those moments were absolutely wonderful when I played through them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that we're definitely not trying to take away from anybody's happiness.
Yeah, some people seem to think that, you know, that's the only point of, you know, of my channel or of someone else's channel, but that's really not the point. You know, just love it. Go enjoy the game. Don't listen to us.
we just want people to understand that there's two different types of players. You know, there's the players who are completely happy with the state of the game now, and there are those who aren't. And, you know, our opinions are important too.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
I feel like that could be said about like updated characters and the changed story and everything as well. The people who actually enjoy the story the way that it is changed, the new canon and the way the new characters look, I envy you. I I genuinely do. I wish I could love them the same way that some people do. But because I'm so connected to the original story, and the original story is the reason why I joined, I just can't see those characters with the same eyes that some people do now.
Like, I totally understand what you're saying, because it's like, you play the Starshine Legacy games, and then you go into the Star Stable Online game, and we had the same story for the longest time, so it makes sense for you to not want the new story anymore, or not want to like the new story anymore, because it's changed so much. And I feel the same way you do, because I wanted to love the new story, it's just that I can't because it's not what I paid for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think we can all just give our final thoughts on the game, maybe, you know, what you think it's going to happen in the future, or what you hope, or maybe just your overall thoughts. So my final thoughts on the game is that, like we said in the beginning, there's a lot of potential in this game, and I think that if they take the time to push forward, I think the game can be absolutely brilliant if they will be willing to put in the effort. There's a lot to love in the game, and there's unfortunately at the same time a lot to be frustrated about. But being frustrated at a game does not necessarily mean that we hate it. It just means that the parts that we love, we want to love, and we don't want to be frustrated at the parts that we are frustrated about. I think that the environments can be better, but I think that with Marley's Farm, I think that they are moving towards direction where they can find the balance between a good realistic game that's still a realistic environment that offers something fun and immersive to people who want to enjoy the game for what it is. And that is a magical, mystical experience with horses. And I do hope that they push forward in that direction and hopefully give us what we want in the future.
I would have to say, for final thoughts, like, I truly do love this game, and I can't imagine a world without it, since I've played these games for, like, as long as I could remember, so that's why I feel so passionately about Star Stable. So I really hope they improve. They've done amazing things in the past, so there is proof that they could do those amazing things again. They just have to listen to their players, and I think they really should put their priorities in place, because they could do great things. They just have to focus on what to do and, like, really think of it in a way better way. Like, they need to be more strategic of what they do, because I feel like if they had more strategy to their company, to their structure, to their game, everything would be way better, and they would have things fall into place a lot more.
Yeah, I would say for my section on the gameplay activities that I do really appreciate that we have things to do in the game at all, but there really should be more variety and more challenge to keep people engaged in the game. So and they should of course also listen to all the good ideas that people come with, because there are so many good ideas out there, and yeah, they should just listen to people and include different kinds of activities, and social activities, not to mention.
Yeah, and for mine, I think it just kind of goes back to again a better balance between the horses and the updates, and I really think that a huge help would be to scale down on the weekly updates and do them bi-weekly or do them monthly, just so that way it's something, it's like fresh, like we have something new, it's more to look forward to, instead of, just like new rope halters or something that are added.
I think that's actually very true with everything that you guys said. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of stuff that they can add. They just have to start doing that. Let's hope they do. But anyway, thank you all so much for joining. I think that this was an absolute blast. I had a lot of fun, and I think it was quite informative, and I think we weren't as negative as people think we usually are about the game. We were critical, but we were also, I think, quite fair to the game as a whole.
Yeah, I think we gave both positive and negative points, so
yeah. Okay, thank you all so much. I think we can cut it off there. I don't want to go for 4 hours. Please don't do that to me. Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.